a little bit. There we go. He likes to sing in the background. I have our awesome jazz man.
Nice.
Yeah, our smooth jazz. All right, everyone. This is Brooke Berman. She's this awesome lady that I've contacted. She's pretty cool. If you'd like to maybe say a few words, say hello to our wonderful audience.
Hi, wonderful audience. Are you guys in Savannah? Is that where I'm calling?
Yeah. This is Savannah, Georgia.
Very nice.
Yeah, so it's really cool. You sound really great, by the way, via phone. I thought I'd let you know.
You're kidding. It's a cell phone.
Well, I don't know. I've had some really awful like phone call interviews where like no one can hear us at all, and it's like brr, 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 gargly, and I'm just like I'm sorry, everyone.
So funny because when we moved to this apartment in July, and we decided to not get a landline, and it's the first time that I haven't had a landline at all, and I had to do a whole bunch of press around my book came out in June, so I was doing a bunch of radio interviews in like June, July, August. And they would say, okay, we need a landline, and I would say, well, I don't have a landline, and nobody wanted to take the appointment with just a cell phone because either they were concerned about the quality or concerned that something would go wrong and they wouldn't be able to. I don't know, but I just don't have a landline, so it became this like major trauma of my summer. So I'm so glad that it's working out for you.
Yeah. Well, you sound great, so. But so we're gonna jump into our interview, and so everyone, she's a playwright and are you also a screenwriter?
Yeah, I'm also a screenwriter.
Okay, all right. I've been telling her like she's a playwright and a screenwriter, but I wouldn't want to be telling lies about you. What?
It's a different training, and I'm mostly a playwright, and I trained as a playwright. And I identify as a playwright, but I'm currently living in Los Angeles writing movies, so that kind of makes me a screenwriter.
I guess so. You are in the official place. Yeah, well, we're definitely going to have to talk about the differences between playwriting and screenwriting, because I also came from, like, theater and playwriting, too. And learning how to, write the monologue for a playwright, like a play versus a screenplay, is completely different in terms of how many lines get to be on that page.
That's right. I actually had a film that won an award in Savannah. I wrote a short film that won a best narrative short at the Savannah Film Festival 3 or 4 years ago.
Yes, I remember reading in the back of your book, your memoir. It said something about that.
I've never been there. And my film was really talky. Like, the film I wrote, we could get away with it because it was only like 10 minutes or 10, 11 minutes. But it was kind of a play. It was a play kind of film because it was mostly dialogue.
That's awesome. So, you're like Aaron Sorkin, right? You just...
God bless you. I would love to be like Aaron Sorkin. Minus poke habit.
Oh my gosh. I don't think I could. I don't know. Being Aaron Sorkin must be just very like exhausting with writing so many words. You just be like, and today I'm going to eat very little food because I'm like, it'll just be like long streams of consciousness. I'm like, wow. And you just made a movie out of that. All right. Like,
it's fun though. I bet it's great. A really fun place to be.
Yeah, probably. Okay. So I was wondering, why do you like writing? I mean, it's very hard to do. So why do you do it?
I like it. It's not hard for me. Honestly, I wanted to be an actor, and acting was so much harder for me than writing. I've always been able to put my thoughts into language. It's just something that's always come easily to me, and for that reason, I didn't think it would be a career. I didn't think it was something I wanted to pursue for other people. I always wrote for myself, and I was trying professionally in my 20s to break in first as an actor and then as a monologuist. I was really influenced by Spalding Gray and Sandra Bernhardt and all the people who were doing like solo theater in New York in the 80s and early 90s, John Leguizamo. And so that was my goal. But along the way, I was always writing anyway, and writing was something I could do for myself, by myself. It wasn't dependent on anybody else's permission. I didn't need money to do it. I didn't need other people to do it. I could just write. And without paying too much attention to how it sort of became my career, if that makes sense.
That's awesome. It's almost as if you not fell into it, but it just sort of became the most natural way to go about it?
I absolutely fell into it. There was a moment when I was, I dropped out of college when I was 20, and so when I was 27 or 28 and I wanted to go back to school, I was applying to programs all over the place, and some of them were to get my bachelor's degree, and some of them were, one or two of them were a playwriting program, and one of them was like a general studies program, and literally I got into the playwriting program. Like, I got into Juilliard, and Juilliard was free, and so there we were. You know what I mean? Had I not gotten into Juilliard, it might have gone in a very different direction.
So you think...
I got to pick up my screaming baby.
Okay. So we were... you were writing. So you fell into playwriting.
Uh-huh.
That's very cool. I mean, I don't know. I guess it's something awesome when you kind of discover something that you really love to do, you know, and it's just happenstance, I suppose.
I think the life of a writer is so hard, and the life of a playwright in particular is so hard because it's really competitive and no one makes any money, and it's really, even when you're doing well, it's a hard road to travel. Mm-hmm. So I think the fact that the writing itself is pleasurable helps.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
You know, and I love the theater. Like, I chose the theater, but writing for the theater chose me.
Nice. So I was wondering, so how long, like, has it been, have you started writing when you were 20s? Like, that's when it started? Or, because how long have you been writing screenplays and plays? Because I'm sure you've been writing for a while, but...
Yeah, I mean, I wrote stories when I was in high school. I wrote a lot of short stories, and then I got to college, and I started performing short stories I had written as monologues. Like I said, I'd seen Spalding Gray, and I was really intrigued and inspired by what he was up to. And so I was doing this little, I'd written a short story, I guess, when I was 20, and I started performing it in coffee houses. And then I dropped out of college to go work with Anne Bogart, who's an experimental theater director. And while I was working with Anne, I performed a piece of my writing. And so at that point I was writing for the theater, but, but mostly for myself and not sort of plays. And then I wrote my first play when I was 23.
Mm-hmm. Hunting and Gathering?
No. I wrote a play. No, I wrote a play called The Dead End of Magic, and I produced it myself with my friends. You know, we all kind of chipped in and worked for free, and we did it for one night in the theater festival. And right around that time, I had sent like an 8-page play I'd written to this theater company in New York called Naked Angels, and they decided to produce it. So I had my first professional production that same year. Hunting and Gathering was probably a good 12 years later.
Oh, okay. All right. Because I guess they said Best New Play of 2008, and I was like, oh, okay. I thought she's been writing way before 2008.
Oh, no. What they mean by that is like a new play rather than a revival. So like a play that's never been done before is called a new play.
Okay, listeners, sorry. We might be going on and off air periodically. So please forgive us. Anyways, let's see. Here we go. Playing some more awesome jazz. Okay. So what made you want to put your experiences into your book, 39 Apartments?
Well, okay. So I'd always written short stories, like I said, and then when Hunting and Gathering was produced, it's a fictional play. It's made up characters in a made up world. It's like it's New York City, but but the very top of the play lists the roughly 20 apartments I had lived in by, I guess, 2004, 2005. Right. I had been asked to write this 10-minute play in 2001 about home, and as a joke, I listed all the apartments I'd lived in, and at the time I wrote it, I was living somewhere very comfortably. I was really happy and settled, and I didn't think I'd be moving again for a while. And then within 6 months of writing that play, the World Trade Center tragedy happened, and my roommate had cancer. And as a combination of those things, I had to move out really quickly. And I put another, 4 or 5 apartments on the list within the few months after that. And so then I wrote Hunting and Gathering, and then Hunting and Gathering was produced, and when it was produced, an editor from Random House read about the play and read about me and called me up and basically said, I think your story is really interesting. Would you want to write about it? And so I went away. I went away like a month later to McDowell, which is an arts colony in New Hampshire, and I read a bunch of memoirs, and I spent some time sort of figuring out if I were going to write about it, what I'd want to say. And it came really naturally. I had found that I wanted very much to write something set in the East Village in New York City in the late 80s, early 90s when I moved there, because it changed so much after, I think Rent, the musical Rent, really changed the neighborhood. But I wanted to write about the neighborhood, and nobody really cared about that neighborhood quite as much as I did, and nobody cared quite so much about what I wanted to say about it, insofar as like a play. But it made perfect sense in the book to be able to just write about my experiences.
That's really great. I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed reading your book. I mean, I haven't had a chance to read any of your plays, but I feel like I know your plays because you talk so much about them in your book, and it's almost as if you write about your life, and then you're like, oh, this play got produced, and I wrote this play, and it's like as if the plays are like moving through the storyline, like how it just moves throughout your life through the book and stuff. And it's like the different plays are like keep coming after one another. I don't know. It's a really interesting way to, I suppose, write a memoir, because most memoirs are written when people are like 70 or something, and I guess I really loved that you weren't old when you wrote it, and I was like, oh, I can identify with this book. I have moved a lot too, but not as many as you.
I honestly think that more and more people have moved a lot. I think it's become a common experience, and I think people under the age of 30, certainly, or under the age of 40, or anyone who works in the theater understands why it is that we move so much. I mean, older people who are used to having a settled existence, who got out of school, got a job, and really expected to stay put for the rest of their lives, have a hard time understanding what my story is about. But younger people who've grown up in this economy, certainly, people who work in the arts, because there's just no money in the arts, understand that it's not because we like moving around a lot. It's out of necessity, and it's really because we're trying to base a life on creative values and creative work. And sometimes it means you have to go with the flow a little bit.